The photograph you are looking at captures an incident that took place in 2005 at a steel plant located in the city of Antofagasta in northern Chile. It shows the aftermath of an explosion that, although initially seemed like a manageable technical issue, similar to those that occasionally happen in smelting furnaces, quickly escalated into a much larger event. The emergency led to a sizable fire, which, while it did not completely destroy the facility, caused significant damage, both material and human. According to various testimonies gathered during and after the incident, at the critical moment of the disaster, a massive figure reportedly took shape, apparently made up of a mixture of molten metal, industrial slag, and chemical waste. Witnesses described this form as resembling an enormous claw rising out of the streams of glowing material and violently interacting with parts of the factory's structure. The movements of this formation were described as erratic and spasmodic, showing no clear pattern and creating scenes of confusion and panic among the workers present. As a result of the chaos caused by these movements, whose exact explanation has yet to be fully determined, at least 5 individuals sustained injuries of varying severity, all attributed either to the direct impact of the phenomenon or to the collapse of parts of the internal structures. Later investigations into the source of the material being processed that day revealed that a significant portion had been recycled from metallic components originating from an old mining facility located in a remote area of the Atacama Desert near the border with Bolivia. According to historical records, that mining site had abruptly ceased operations in 1991. While official documents cited a labor strike as the reason for the shutdown, unofficial accounts gathered from former workers spoke of unexplained phenomena at the site. These included persistent noises, disruptions in control systems, and the occasional appearance of silhouettes or figures that were difficult to describe with any precision. The situation reportedly created an atmosphere of growing tension, ultimately leading to a mass resignation of the operational staff. The mine was abandoned and forgotten for over a decade, until its remnants were eventually hauled north as scrap metal, destined to be melted down and recycled. It was that very shipment, originating from a mining facility long associated with reports of anomalous activity, that entered the smelting system of the Antofagasta plant on the day of the incident. The event gave rise to a new wave of stories surrounding what had happened, adding to the legends already woven into the region's folklore. The tale of the Andes Steelworks, as some have come to call it, began to be seen as a convergence point for unexplained events, feeding into a narrative that blends documented facts with elements still lacking a clear explanation. Although no official statement has ever been issued to support such theories, the memory of the disaster remains vivid for those who witnessed it and continues to live on in the stories passed among workers across northern Chile. During the Halloween celebrations of 1993 in the small town of Corbett, Oregon, an incident took place that would later be considered one of the most disturbing events in the state's modern criminal history. As was customary on that night, the streets were filled with children, teenagers, and even adults dressed in costumes, blending festive excitement with popular tradition. Among the crowd, however, 2 individuals stood out. Although their appearance did not initially raise any alarm, they would soon become associated with a profoundly macabre event. Several residents took note of the pair, finding their outfits striking. Their behavior was erratic, and they made no attempt to interact with anyone. No one in town could identify who they were or where they had come from. Yet the relaxed atmosphere of the celebration, combined with the high level of detail and realism in their costumes, meant no immediate suspicions were raised. That, as people would later say, proved to be one of the critical mistakes. 2 days later, the local police department received a call reporting the unexplained absence of Mr. Harold Wilson, an employee at an industrial supply company in Troutdale. When officers went to check his residence and received no response, they entered the family home. What they found inside was described in official reports as a scene of absolute horror. Both Harold and his wife, Dana, along with their 2 young children, had been brutally murdered. However, the bodies were not positioned in a way typical of domestic crimes or acts of revenge. Each family member had been dissected with surgical precision, and their remains arranged into what investigators referred to as ritual installations, distributed across different levels of the house: the first floor, the attic, and the basement. Each of these installations consisted of macabre arrangements, where body parts, arms, legs, organs, even hair, were placed around carved symbols, ritual elements of undetermined origin, and structures with a performative nature. Investigators quickly refocused their attention on the images captured during Halloween. The only unidentified individuals seen roaming the area, and on at least 2 occasions linked to the Wilson residence, were those 2 costumed figures. Witnesses reported that they would regularly step out of a camper van parked a few blocks away, walk toward the Wilson home, and return without interacting with any other neighbors or joining the night's festivities. The most unsettling detail was the description of one of their faces. It appeared to emit a series of tiny glowing points, as if the skin were translucent or embedded with some kind of device. Strange as it sounded, at least 4 different witnesses confirmed the observation. But what disturbed those who had even brief encounters with this individual the most was the voice he produced. It was not a human voice. Instead of words or natural sounds, what came from his mouth was a type of digital distortion, like a compressed echo of voiceless screams, a noise resembling static interference, or the overlapping of broken frequencies. Those who heard it agreed communication was impossible. The investigation that followed was exhaustive. Samples were taken from every footprint found inside the house. Fibers were analyzed, hours of footage were reviewed, and composite sketches were distributed. Yet the results turned up nothing. The prints, though present, matched no known database. Some of them, according to forensic experts, didn't even match human morphology. No genetic material, hair, or tissue was found that could help establish an identity. The camper van also vanished that same night, leaving no trace on any highway or at any gas station. In the end, after months of fruitless efforts, the case was officially classified as an unsolved mystery. Authorities publicly admitted they could go no further, and the file was archived as an unresolved incident. Ever since, every Halloween in Corbett has been marked by a strange mix of nostalgia and unease, and the memory of those 2 nameless visitors, whose brief appearance became entwined with one of the most baffling crimes the region has ever seen, still lingers among its people. The history of the Lima Metro, located in Peru's capital city, has been marked from the very beginning by a series of difficulties that complicated its development and execution. Over the years, the project was plagued by a lack of continuity in public policies, severe financial crises, and most critically, major flaws in the overall planning of the construction work. It was this last issue that led to some of the most complicated episodes. In 1997, as excavation efforts were about to resume after several periods of suspension, project managers failed to conduct a sufficiently thorough geotechnical and archaeological survey of the area. As a result of this negligence, they overlooked the fact that the northernmost sector of the city was a protected archaeological zone, home to ancient remnants of structures from the Inca period. However, what they found there far exceeded their initial expectations. While they had anticipated discovering minor artifacts, likely damaged by the passage of time and associated with well-known pre-Hispanic cultures, what emerged from the excavations were massive stone-carved faces of considerable size, entirely absent from any archaeological record related to the Inca Empire. These sculptures, which bore no resemblance to the styles or materials typically linked to the Incas, were carefully extracted and subjected to detailed study. To that end, experts from the United States were called in, and after conducting extensive evaluations, dating tests, and stylistic comparisons, they concluded that the stone structures were nearly 2,000 years older than the rise of the Inca Empire. Their existence pointed to a time when the region was thought to have been inhabited only by extremely simple societies, previously regarded as basic subsistence communities, with no prior evidence suggesting any significant cultural or artistic development. In the district of Stolipinovo, located in the Bulgarian city of Plovdiv, a little-known urban legend has circulated over the past 30 years, confined mostly to the experiences of a specific group of residents from the southern part of the district. This story traces its origins back to the early 1990s, when many of the homes and apartment buildings in the area had just been constructed and handed over to their new occupants. Within just a few months of settling in, numerous residents began filing complaints with local police, claiming they had heard strange noises coming from the attics of their homes. At first, the most reasonable explanations pointed to nests of birds, small mammals, or structural defects caused by rushed or substandard construction. However, the situation took an unexpected turn when some neighbors, equipped with cameras, managed to capture images of the attics during moments when the noises were most intense. Upon analyzing the photographs, they noticed the appearance of spectral figures, entities so unsettling that their existence was difficult to accept, even for those who had seen them firsthand. To most, it seemed utterly implausible that such images could have been physically captured by a camera. At first, the community suspected it was an elaborate hoax or some form of manipulation by those responsible for the photographs. However, as time went on and more evidence accumulated, the pattern of sightings became too consistent to dismiss. The photographs, most of them taken in the early hours of the morning, repeatedly showed the same strange, unsettling figures wandering through the upper spaces of the buildings. This phenomenon was not confined to the early years, but continued intermittently for nearly 3 decades. Even with the introduction of high-resolution cameras and improved capture technology, the images still recorded the presence of these entities. One particularly notable aspect of the entire ordeal was that, despite the fear and unease they stirred, the figures never caused physical harm to the residents nor made any direct attempt to interact with them. According to collected testimonies, their behavior consisted solely of roaming erratically and silently through the attics, without displaying any signs of hostility or communication. During the 1990s, in response to the persistence of the phenomenon, several local priests were called upon to provide an interpretation of the events. After a series of blessings and religious rituals, many of them concluded that the figures were restless souls, trapped in a state of purgatory, confined to the uppermost spaces of the buildings. According to this interpretation, the entities, unable to descend or leave their confinement, were doomed to wander endlessly through the attics, incapable of interacting with the physical world beyond those structural limits.